Hello, it's JJ DiGeronimo, and I'm so glad you're here with us again today. I'm with Sue Begent, and Sue and I met through unexpected circumstances, and I think it was serendipitous in the sense that I think her practice and what she does for a living is going to be so insightful and maybe helpful to some of you listening. So, Sue, without any further ado, tell us a little bit about who you are.
So I am a women's business coach, and I specialize in not only the business aspect of things, but also helping people get unstuck, get out of their own way. And one of the modalities that I use to do that is what we're going to talk about today.
Which is so exciting. And Sue and I met for another reason. And when we were digging through our backgrounds and the work that we do, I started telling her about some of the energy practice work I've been doing. And together we seek that online. And she's like, well, off the side of my desk, that's soon going to be the main part of me and my work. I work with Psych-K. And I was like, wait, repeat that? What is that? Tell me, what are you doing? And so please share a little bit about what is Psych-K.
So Psych-K is a modality that allows somebody to clear subconscious emotional blocks and beliefs that they've picked up through their life and maybe their lineage, and if you believe in such things, from their past lives too. And it helps them not reframe, but shift the energy blocks that occur when we collect thoughts about ourselves that, then become unhelpful. Let me give you an example, for instance. And I'm going to give you a business example because, I work with business women, but this applies across the board. What can happen with entrepreneurs? When we first become entrepreneurs, we run into a lot of things that perhaps were masked if we came from perhaps a position or a corporation or whatever. Beliefs that we're holding about ourselves. So, for instance, beliefs that we hold about money are very common ones. So we don't realize that we are carrying the thoughts of money is the root of all evil, or rich people are mean, or whatever we've picked up, maybe from our family of origin, maybe in the sort of society that we grew up in, the community that we grew up in. And so it's tremendously helpful to have a tool that can help you shift those beliefs. And that's one way of using Psych-K. And I know we're going to get into sort of the modality practice later, but so you can use it to shift beliefs and mindset. Another example from what happens to us in entrepreneurship is we try and then we fail, and we try and we fail, and we try and we fail. And we get almost like what I would call a trauma response around that. We start to get a rising sense of anxiety when we have yet another go at the same thing, because the belief that we've amplified within ourselves is it's going to fail. It's failed every other time. Why won't it fail this time? And so I use Psych-K to help businesswomen, for instance, shift the energy behind that. It's not necessarily that I'm going to, it's not like a magic that suddenly the thought goes away, but it doesn't carry the same emotional load. When you have a tool that can help take the energy out of that, the trauma response that sits underneath that repeated difficulty, it makes it so much easier to move forward.
So this is so interesting because I do a lot of work with women in business as well. Different work, but I do think that what is holding us back is what's buried inside us.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's very interesting that you attack the energy blocks to really allow you to have more fluidity in the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. What I observed in my own journey, and then I frequently observe it in clients, is they can learn all the practical tools. They can put together the talk. They can put together the course. They can get super clear on their ideal client or not. Sometimes I never quite know where they're actually going to get jammed up. But somewhere they get jammed up, they can't actually narrow in. There's a fear underneath narrowing in on an ideal client. which is one of the keys to being successful, this stops them doing that. It's a very scary thing to do. For instance, a business coach comes along and says, narrow down your audience. And you're looking for clients. You're at that point in your business where you need clients. And so even if your brain accepts the logic, the emotional piece of you finds that tremendously difficult to do. So you find yourself with a general message to a lot of different people. Nothing has the resonance that it should have because you haven't got that courage to speak very specifically to the pain and go deep so that the right person gets that resonance. And so the beautiful thing about this tool is that this modality, I should say, is it allows actually in a relatively short space of time, the ability to shift the emotional block that sits underneath. And it's tremendously, I've used it extensively since I discovered it. And, it's very difficult to tell you, but for you to know, because you didn't see me before. But I can tell you that when I came across Psych-K, I was feeling tremendously stuck in my own business. I felt as though I'd sort of lost my mojo. I was not moving forward. I think you're always moving. If you're not moving forward and stretching, you tend to be regressing. I wasn't out there getting clients in the way I should be. I didn't have the right energy to do so. I had all of these doubts. And it was like sort of, towing an anchor behind me. And so I discovered Psych-K fortuitously, thank you, universe. I started working with a new financial advisor. And she said to me, we were having, second or third consultation about what I was doing with my finances. And she said, I have a feeling that you might be open to energy modalities. And I said, sure. She said, I don't do this for clients, but I, do this thing called Psych-K. If you'd be open to trying it, it could actually really help shift your belief, what's underlying the patterns that have been going on here. So I said, sure, I have nothing to lose. I've had an interest in all the, I'm a Reiki master. I've done all sorts of modalities through my, ever since my sort of late 30s. So I said, sure. And I found myself sitting in my living room with my arms outstretched, watching them come together on their own, and was a little bit mind blown by really a 10 minutes that almost like turning the Queen Mary started to shift everything in my life. And so first of all, I stopped being stressed about things. I started to realize that I could trust the universe more than I had been doing. I felt I had to carry it all. Within a couple of weeks, I thought, this is a modality I need to learn. So at the end of January this year, so then the thing was, where will I go to do this? Well, there turned out to be somebody half an hour down the road. So I'm like, okay, universe, I think I can get this. Everything started to fall into place. So I went and did some basic training. And the part of the modality that is the actual part that helps you shift these blocks is called a balance. And I have done Psych-K balances every single day since I went to basic training in January this year. And I have subsequently done mastery and also advanced training because I have worked with so many different people and different modalities through my years and found them all, I believe that the right thing turns up at the right time. Trust the process, trust the universe. And this was the right time for Psych-K to turn up for me, and it has been transformative.
So I love it. I mean, I love any modality having to do with energy because I really do believe it is inherent to all of us. We just don't remember. And that some energy practices bring things forward, other things, make you more centered, and some things you're learning for the first time. So I feel like I've been researching energy practices for, my whole life I've been doing something, but I would say since 2016, I've been really running around visiting different energy practitioners. And really one of the reasons I put the community together is to educate people that don't have the time, like I did, to run around and meet with all these people, which I absolutely loved. But it's just not realistic for a lot of people. So, but I've never heard of Psych-K. So, like, where has it been? Is it, is it coming? Is it emerging? Has it been around for a long time and it just completely missed? Yeah, I completely missed it. I do think now, of course, I'm reading this book about all these blockages right now. So it's funny that it's coming forward now, but tell me a little bit more about it.
Yes, I hadn't heard of it either. And a little bit like you, I hadn't been running around sort of, investigating. But since I first discovered somebody called Carolyn Mace, I too had never heard of it. But it actually came about in 1988. So it has been around a while. And there is an international organization behind this. What's wonderful about Psych-K is you don't have to go into a whole explanation of what's going on. As long as your subconscious knows what you're dealing with, you can actually clear it and you'll feel connected to it. So, and that's a wonderful thing, particularly for people who find it hard. The issue is a very emotionally charged one. Say it's a trauma around losing a child or PTSD, or whatever. I digress. And so many people who've heard of Psych-K have come through it through a cell biologist called Bruce Lipton, who taught at the medical school in Wisconsin and has done research at Stanford into cell biology. His book, The Biology of Belief, it's really all about the science of epigenetics and the fact that, our genetic makeup is not our destiny, and the fact our thoughts and our emotions and the subconscious beliefs that we carry shape, what happens to our bodies. So at the very end of that book, he talks about, he was at a scientific conference, he was actually giving a presentation about that whole topic of epigenetics and how, your beliefs are actually what's driving what happens in your cells. But he basically had to say, when somebody asked him, I don't know how to fix it though. And then Rob Williams, it was Rob Williams, his name, was actually the next presenter. And Rob said, well, you might want to stay for this presentation. And he introduced Psych-K to the audience. And he actually, we don't do demonstrations, public demonstrations anymore, but he actually did one that day. And to a woman who was terrified of public speaking, couldn't actually even get the words out, but put her hand up and said, I wanted to come on the stage and work with you. He did a Psych-K balance right there with her. And she started to speak to everybody and tell everybody what she was feeling before she did the balance, and the fact that she was terrified to speak, and now she could speak. And so I don't want to give the impression that Psych-K is magic. This is not what this is about. It's about what you're ready for. We are all on our journey of growth journeys. Some of us are perhaps a little more conscious than others. But when you do a Psych-K balance, here's what to expect. And I can, this is my experience as well as the experience of many people. Sometimes the change happens right then and there. And I've had clients that I've worked with that come in terrible pain and then have gone, it's gone. So that can be an experience that people have. What I would say is more often an experience is you do a balance and then you need to notice what happens over the next few days or the next few weeks. I had one recently where I had bouts with so many things, clearing out forgiveness work, forgiving myself for things I'd done, forgiving, people in my family or people that I had, and all sorts of things. I mean, I'd been bouncing for, and so I was sitting in a workshop and I thought, what am I going to bounce for? So into my head popped, I release the traumas from my family of origin, which we all have. This is not, my family is no different from anyone else's family. And I did the balance, and it wasn't the heavens didn't open, and there were angels weren't singing. I went home. 1 or 2 days later, I was, looking on Amazon for books. I had a client with a particular challenge and I wanted to actually read up. And in the search popped up a book. It was Adult Children of Immature Parents. And that just happened to be the right book for me at that moment. And I bought it. I read it in 24 hours and I spent another 24 hours balancing for everything that that I learned in the book that brought into stark clarity my lineage, my family lineage. And so, and these are the things that are possible through this modality. And I've done all sorts of other things.
Yeah. So if people are interested, which I am, I'm going to sign up for a session with you. So tell me, what do they have to prepare? How long does it take? Is it one session? What is it? Tell us. And like, what do you do?
So as a participant, you don't need to prepare anything. I'll send you a few questions just to start you thinking about what you might like to cover in your session. But you could come in cold without that, because your subconscious knows what it's ready to shift at the time. I usually do 1.5 hours with somebody who's brand new and never done it before, because there's a little time where I explain what we're going to do, and then we actually do a couple of balances, and we'll probably do a few during that session. And so you're getting comfortable with, just me guiding you through a balance, for instance. For somebody who's never heard about this before, I do a 20-minute consultation, just so that we can even find out whether this feels like the right next step. Once somebody has had an initial balance, you have a knowing whether it feels like the right word for you. And then I suggest a package of 6 balances, where 6 sessions, because over that, it's a little bit like peeling an onion. You're not ready necessarily. Sometimes you're just ready to let go of something big, and this is a huge shift. But quite often it's like, let's peel a layer, and then that makes you, because this reorganizes the cells of your body. You're reorganizing your energy. And so, because when you shift your beliefs and there's the emotions that sit underneath it, everything reorganizes. So it's a little bit like you're a slightly different person when you come for the next balance. And when you come for your next session, you might be ready to go deeper with maybe the challenge that you brought in the first place. Or suddenly, out of nowhere, something else is actually presenting itself. A series of 6 really allows you to move forward and really see a difference.
And is each session about an hour?
Yes. Other than the first one, yes.
And during the sessions, are we just talking like this, or am I meditating, or what am I doing?
We start out, we find out what it is that you'd like to clear that day. We have a conversation. Maybe we might see if we can go a little deeper so that we can actually clear what's really underneath that. And then what we'll do is something called a Psych-K balance. The first thing we do is, one of the things that are very important in the Psych-K balance is using muscle testing. Because what muscle testing does is it allows us to find out what's really true for you. So because our conscious brains feel like, the majority of our brain, but the reality is it's about 5% of our brain function. And it's a little bit like the laptop, and your subconscious, what's got everything else, is like the supercomputer. Everything is controlled from the subconscious, including your breathing, your heart, and all of that, all the bodily functions. But also this is where a lot of beliefs sit. So what we need to do, we use the muscle testing to find out, are you congruent? What you're consciously thinking, is your subconscious aligned with that? Sometimes we'll find out that it is. Well, that's fantastic. Usually there's, if things are off, I've got a repeating pattern that I'd like to shift, and things are not working out. So we need to find out. And then we use muscle testing to find out whether it is safe and appropriate to balance this goal now. One of the things about Psych-K is I'm a facilitator and you're my partner. It's very much a partnering modality, and everything is coming from you. I don't know the answers. We use the muscle testing to use the wisdom of your body to know what's true for you. We're finding out if it's safe and appropriate to balance for the goal. And then we're finding out if you are weak to the goal or strong to the goal in terms of muscle testing. And once we have the all clear, yes, it's safe and appropriate, yes, we need to test, we need to do a balance of this, I then guide you. Well, then we find out which balance is appropriate. We ask your higher self, actually, what's the most appropriate. Once we do that, none of this is known by me.
Yeah. Most of the muscle testing I've done to date has been in person. So you are able to do muscle testing virtually?
Yes. So it's done through a process called surrogation. So I muscle test for you. So this is permission between your higher self and my higher self, that I have your highest and best interests at heart. And so I muscle test those statements that it is safe and appropriate for me to surrogate for you, and that it's safe and appropriate for you to have me as your surrogate. Once that's established, then I test that I am now operating from your energy. It's a little bit like I put on, a little extra energy cloak. I still am me, but I also can muscle test for you. And so that allows us to do this remotely.
That's fantastic. And it kind of plays into a couple of things I've been researching. Like we had Ruth on a couple weeks ago, and she was doing some clearings, and she does it with numbers. I was following Holistic over there, and she does it a different way. And I think for many of us, it's like anything else. We're all going to need different equations to get where we need to go. And so if this resonates with you or you want to explore it, you can obviously check Sue out. She'll have a profile, and Together We Seek .online with her links where you can contact her directly and just work with her directly, which is what I love about the platform, is that it allows you guys to connect individually. So as you've been learning this, I guess, as we're rounding this out, I love this idea. I love the idea of finding new ways to clear things that are no longer serving me so I can create more light and love, because I feel like that really allows me to do my work, is when I can illuminate and especially remove anything that's just taking up space. So I love that. I guess, what are some of the ahas about either where you are in your business, where you are with this modality, or maybe even what it's done that you are still trying to just wrap your mind around?
Well, I was pretty mind blown, I might say, when I decided to clear, my traumas from my family of origin. That was. But as I have approached things in my business where perhaps previously I have felt held back, I felt fear, I have used Psych-K balances to actually clear the energy that goes with that. So do I still feel that I've got to take this leap and stretch? Of course I do. But my ability to do that is my energy is so much clearer in taking that stretch. And that's, I think, really, really critical. It's just, I can't tell you how much of a gift this has been to me. And I completely agree with you that you find what resonates with you at the time. If you have that resonance, absolutely, this is the right thing for you to explore right now. So I've done all sorts of different things, and they all, I think, have, can bring real value to the right person at the right time.
I love that. And I feel for so many of us, like, you don't have to go alone. You don't have to live in like the negativity. You don't have to live in the self-doubt. There's many ways to clear that, but you do have to give yourself permission to spend some money and some time to make it happen. And I think for many of us, it's the biggest gift you can give yourself.
Absolutely. 100%.
Oh, this has been lovely, Sue. I've had so much fun spending the day with you and really having this conversation, because I think so many of us are conditioned to look to what's already out there, right? The Myers-Briggs, the Strength Finders, all the tools in corporate America, which many of us have done 10 times over. And how many times can you analyze those boxes? I think for many of us, it's about digging deep and working from the inside out.
I would say that having conscious knowledge is only part of the equation. You can have conscious knowledge and still keep falling over this, there it is again. I did it again. And when that happens, it's because your subconscious isn't on board. And you have to get, we grow up with a lot of messages about ourselves, many of which were never intended by those who loved and cared for us. We as children take away messages about ourselves that we don't realize that we've taken on board and are still operational even when we walk into the boardroom or the C-suite. And so conscious knowledge is just only part of the equation. And so I would encourage all of you, I was in corporate America in corporate for 25 years. And I would encourage all of you, if you feel inclined, go and explore, releasing what's underneath those patterns that keep coming up, that keep tripping you up in life. Yeah.
I love this. I love this. And I think we had talked earlier for another reason, and we were talking about how women have so much untapped talent they're bringing
Yeah.
to work, so much untapped talent that they've been sort of conditioned not to use. And I think now is the time. Now is the time for women to really step
Absolutely.
into their full self, all their lessons, all their wisdom. And
Yes.
knowing in doing so, you're going to have a lot of energy associated with that that's been buried deep for a while. So whether you do Psych-K or something else, the idea is give yourself permission to let go of things that are no longer serving you and that are not helping you cultivate the energy, the frequency, or the impact you desire.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been
So
a pleasure.
wonderful. Thank you.